About Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's questions about two persons. Some people were sitting with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when a person passed that way. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked the company, "What do you think of this person?" They replied, "O Nabi of Allah, he is from a good family. By Allah, he is such that if he seeks in marriage the hand of a woman of the most illustrious family, he will not be rejected. If he recommends anybody, his recommendation will be readily accepted." Thereupon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam held his peace. A little later, another person happened to pass that way, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam put the same question to his companions about that person also. They replied, "O Nabi of Allah, he is a very poor Muslim. If he proposes somewhere, chances are that he will not get married. If he happens to recommend anybody, his recommendation is not likely to be accepted. If he talks, few would listen to him." Thereupon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam remarked, "This latter person is better than a whole lot of such persons as the former." Worldly honor carries absolutely no weight with Allah. A poor Muslim who is of little esteem and who commands but little respect in this world is far nearer to Allah than hundreds of the so-called noblemen who, though respected and attended upon by the worldly people, have no honor in the sight of Allah. It is said in a hadith, "It will be the end of this world when there remains not a single soul to hymn the name of Allah, to make tasbih, to remember the name of Allah. It is by the name of Allah that the system of this universe is in existence." Another story. Hardship goes with love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A person came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, "O Nabi of Allah, I love you very much." Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Think well before you say this." The person said, "I have already given it thought. I love you very much, O Nabi of Allah." Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Think once again before you declare such a thing." The person said, "I still love you very much, O Nabi of Allah." Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Well, if you are sincere in what you say, then be prepared to face deprivation and want coming to you from all directions, for it pursues all those who love me as swiftly as water running downstream." That is why we find the Sahaba living mostly a life of poverty. Similarly, the eminent muhaddithin, Sufia, and scholars lived hand to mouth throughout their lives. So two things. Firstly, in the first story that we read, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that Qiyamah will come when there is no one to say Allah, Allah. So in the Arabic, there are two ways of reading it. One is Allahu, Allahu. One is Allah, Allah. So Allahu, Allahu means that we are remembering Allah. That Allah is the creator, Allah is sustainer, Allah is this, Allah is that, Allah is the only one who has any power. That is when there's a hu at the end. And when there is Allah, Allah, then it comes in the meaning of fear Allah, fear Allah. Ittaqillah, ittaqillah. Fear Allah, fear Allah. Then in the second meaning, it is not merely just to take the name of Allah, rather it is to warn others about Allah, to remind them of Allah, to remind them of their obligation to fear Allah, to bring their lives in line with what Allah demands from us. Fear Allah, fear Allah. So in the first case, it will be when there's no one to mention the name of Allah. And the second interpretation or second way of reading it's when there's no one to remind others of Allah. So from this, what we understand is that both of these things should be in our lives. It should not just be that we are ourselves are remembering Allah and forget about the world. Rather, we should want for everyone what we want for ourselves. No one would like to see their neighbor suffering. No one would like to see their neighbor starving. No one would like to see their neighbor in trouble. No one would like to see their friends like that. Yeah. No one would like to see even their enemies being tortured. So likewise, we should have this concern for them for their akhirah, which is the everlasting situation. So this should be something which, along with remembering Allah, we're also reminding others about Allah. That was from that point about the different types of people that even though they might be rich. You know, we see some people, they have Ferraris and Lamborghinis in their driveway, and they look like they're living a very comfortable and affluent life. But if they do not have Allah in their lives, then it's like a person who is borrowing. He has a car with him for some time. I might think I'm a big shot. I rented a Ferrari for one day, and people are like, wow, this guy has a Ferrari. But little do they know that in a day I have to give it back. Maybe I have it for 2, 3 days and then I have to give it back. The extent of time that I have it for is of no concern because a time is coming where I will have to leave everything in the world. So we should be mindful. We should take up this concern, the concern of the Prophets alayhimussalam. That's one thing. And second story. Second story was, what was the second story? Gee. The person who says that he loves Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So Sahaba radiallahu anhum were such people. You know, at the end of the commentary, he says that were such people that were often living in poverty. But this was not because that money did not come their way. It was not because money did not come their way that they were living a life of poverty, but because they sent it forward for the akhirah. After the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when money started coming the way of the Muslims, then sometimes people would give Aisha radiallahu anha a gift of 100,000 dirhams. 100,000 dirhams, which is maybe like $1 million-ish plus or minus. She would give the whole thing away in charity in that very day. She would give the whole thing away. And then one of her servants would say that if only you had kept a couple of, maybe $1 or $2 or $10, we could have bought some meat because of your fasting. And, you could have had something, a bit more delicious, a bit better, less rough, less rugged than barley for iftar. It would have been nice. And Aisha radiallahu anha tells her, well, now there's no point in complaining. Had you reminded me at that time, we could have kept it. But now it's gone, it's gone. Why are you talking about it now? So this was their perspective, how they would look forward to the akhirah. Not that they did not have, but they spent in the right way. This is the true expression that someone loves Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One scholar, he says that we claim to love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but we actually follow the way of so he's talking in the subcontinent, India, Pakistan, says, so he says that we claim to love Rasulullah, we claim to hate the ways of the Hindus, but we do not follow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we're imitating the Hindus and their rituals and their customs, and their marriages and this and that. So this is our situation, that we claim to love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do we follow him? These Sahaba, they claim to love it, and this is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, if you are sincere in what you say, then poverty will come to you. Because they gave and they gave and they gave. Now the money didn't come their way, but they kept on spending and spending and spending in the way that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself spent. Ji. What does sincere means? It means someone who is for real. Like I say, oh Yusuf, you're my best friend, and then the second you turn around, I smack you, and I keep on talking bad about you. Then you say that you're not for real, right? So you're not my real friend. You just say that you're my friend. But now I say, Yusuf, you're my friend. And now some bullies come and say, hey, who is this guy? And I say, hey, don't touch him. This is Yusuf. He's my friend. You touch him, you're going to have to deal with me first. You say, this is my real friend. Ji? So that's what it means. Then they were, if you are for real, if you really love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then expect poverty to come your way. समझ गए? But it doesn't have to be, because they did not have anything. It's because they chose to follow the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were sincere in their claims. May Allah also give us tawfiq to bring our life in the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inshallah, for now, this is going to be, if I'm, it's a pretty hectic time for me. So inshallah, I'm gonna take a little break from this daily talim, maybe for 2 or 3 weeks or something. Inshallah, I'll keep you posted when we plan to restart. It's just a bit wild for me right now, inshallah. So,
No problem. Thank you for advising.
inshallah, no worries. Inshallah. So we'll keep you posted what's going on. But Jazakumullah khairan. Allah give us tawfiq to bring these things into our lives. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallah bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. जी खदीजा क्या हो गया?
I like hearing you, Taleem.
अच्छा, we'll figure out something. ठीक है खदीजा. खदीजा वेव करिए सब लोगों को. या मामा.
आपकी तबीयत तो ठीक है ना मेरा बच्चा?
I'm having the same things, same pains, same things.
So